I don't think we should try to politicize this through partisan goggles either. We still have not yet even seen the manifesto of that transgender shooter in Nashville of a Christian school.
I want you to file this next clip that I'm getting ready to play under the fastest pathway to power in this country is attacking black people, as made evidence by none other than Vivek Ramaswamy, who is running for president of the United States. He has staked much of his entire campaign and most of his personality, his public personality, on anti-blackness. He regularly chimes in to attack the black community. Yesterday was no different, even in the aftermath of the racist violence that took place at Dollar General, where 21-year-old Ryan Palmetter made it clear that he was targeting black people precisely because they were black. Despite all of that, here is presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy on Meet the Press with Chuck Todd yesterday morning. And listen to how he not only victim blames black people, but tries to deflect and say, don't pay any attention to the racism that we saw this weekend. Why don't you look at the south side of Chicago? And remember, in this clip, he's being asked about what happened in Duval at the Dollar General.
I think there are more race-based violent crimes on the right than on the left. Why is this a lot more pervasive on the right?
Well, the fact of the matter is, I think that there's a lot more violence that's also pervasive in parts of the country that supposedly are left-wing voter bases. So I don't think this is a left versus right issue, and I don't think we should try to politicize this through partisan goggles either, Chuck, especially in the wake of a tragedy like this one. The fact is there are more black men dying on the south side of Chicago.
Do you ignore the elements that allowed this manifesto to spread online, and that what we're, it does feel as if social media connects some of these hateful ideologies?
Well, the fact of the matter is I do think we have two standards that we're even applying if we're having a conversation about manifestos. We still have not yet even seen the manifesto of that transgender shooter in Nashville of a Christian school, and yet here we're focusing on the motive. So if we want to look at this through a politicized lens, let's look at what the political media and the political establishment is doing differentially in how they analyze different crimes and then create a new narrative around it.
A bunch of word salad. A bunch of word salad that means absolutely nothing except for the fact that Vivek Ramaswamy, just like Ron DeSantis, just like the rest of the conservative movement, they are completely and entirely incapable of identifying what happened Saturday for what it was. A racist terrorist attack from a right-wing, radicalized, young white male shooter, white male mass shooter. That's what happened, and they are completely incapable of saying that because, quiet as it's kept, these voters, these young, radicalized young men, they're part of the Republican voter base.
As a consequence of the so-called anti-racist movements.
Your argument comes across as blaming those that are trying to create equality for the rise in racism.
Well, the fact is, Chuck, I don't want to be playing a blame game. I want to be going towards a solution, and I am genuinely worried that those who earnestly espouse the view, I'm going to quote Ibram Kendi from his book directly, I'm not putting words in anybody's mouth, says the right answer to past discrimination is present discrimination. The right answer to present discrimination is future discrimination. I believe the people who hold that view are earnest about it, but I think they're wrong. And I think that that's actually creating more discrimination and more division in our country.
Listen, I don't care how quickly he speaks, right? This is a pattern and an MO of the conservative movement. They think that because they speak quickly and they say a whole bunch of stuff that they're actually saying something of substance. But what he is trying to convey here is precisely what Chuck Todd identified. We live in an era when white Republicans, just like their brown people of color who like to do the bidding of white supremacy, because that's all Vivek Ramaswamy is. He's a brown face of white supremacy. They are actively trying to blame black people who are fighting for justice in this country. They are trying to blame us for the actual racist violence and the state of racist tensions in this country. In other words, the fact that we're fighting for justice to them is the reason there's racism in the first place. Listen again.
As a consequence of the so-called anti-racist movements.
Your argument comes across as blaming those that are trying to create equality for the rise in racism.
those who are trying to, that's exactly what the argument is, Chuck Todd. And I'm not a big fan of Chuck Todd, but this is the most salient and the clearest eyed view and opinion I think I have ever heard from Chuck Todd on Meet the Press on NBC. But this is precisely what people like Vivek Ramaswamy, presidential candidate, this is what they are actively trying to do.